Okay, so I have a hot take. It's probably not even a hot take anymore because it's so old at this point and it's very random. But like, I think that anybody who thinks that Killmonger is not a villain in the Black Panther is extremely misogynistic or male centric. Like that's my litmus test. If you believe that Killmonger is not the villain, is not the bad guy in that movie, then you're misogynistic or male centric. Because it was very clear that he was the bad guy and the movie was trying, like the filmmaker was writing in scenes to make sure that you were clear on the fact. It's like you can sympathize with him up to a point, but you have to understand also that he's a psychopath or sociopath. Like something's terribly wrong with him. Like he things went bad. And the way that they did that was they introduced a kick the puppy moment, but people missed this as a kick the puppy moment because people hate black women. The kick the puppy moment that happened in Black Panther was when Killmonger kills his girlfriend. Now, being that this guy was at a very high level in the military, he has all this military training and expertise, he could have handled that differently. So they were showing that he was making a choice. He was making a choice. Another moment that was a kick the puppy moment that was supposed to solidify for us that this is not the most sympathetic character. This is a person who is very unhinged. Was the moment that he strangled the lady with the heart shaped herb scene. This was another black woman that he was being violent with. Again, this is another moment that is showing us that this character, if they are given a certain amount of power, that they are always going to abuse it. So, if he's given power to liberate black people, he is not going to use that power to liberate black people. He's going to use that power to enact violence upon black people because he couldn't get anything done without first enacting violence against black people, starting with black women. Again, this is something that the filmmaker put in there for us to kind of understand that, but being that so many people's programming is anti-black and anti-woman, it went over a lot of people's heads. And that is part of the reason why I believe it to be a litmus test. There's another moment in the movie where Killmonger says something along the lines of, like when it's brought up that his father was killed or his father died or something like that. And he's like, yeah, well, people die. That's just the way it is around here. This is not a normal reaction. It's not like he never met his father. He knew his father. He loved his father. So for him to react like this, we see that something's clearly wrong with this person. And this is not to say that you should not sympathize with him whatsoever, or understand that this is a person that has some trauma and they're trying to deal with it and work through it and all that. But this is to say that this is not a person that you're supposed to be rooting for and hoping that they get the thing that they're going after. And being that so many people left that movie rooting for him, even though he was clearly the villain, shows me that more people are male centric and misogynistic than they actually think. Another hill that I'm willing to die on is that if Killmonger had betrayed someone who was not a black woman, people would have been more upset at his character. People would have seen him more as the villain than they did had he not just did those explicitly violent acts towards a black woman. And I'm trying to be cautious with the words that I'm using because I know that like early on he had poisoned that white woman at the museum. But this was not a betrayal because they were not friends. Also, he did not put his hands on that woman. Like there was no moment where he was strangling or like outright pew pewing them, which is what he did to his girlfriend and to that black woman with the heart-shaped herb. So I'm specifically saying that had he have done any of those things to a woman of another race, outright, and it was seen as more of a betrayal, that would have been something that would have been a more kick the puppy moment for people. But being that he did those things, those terrible things to black women, people are more accepting of that because we are all programmed to hate black women. Like this was the filmmaker's way of trying to give us a moment that shows that this is not a sympathetic character, and it went over people's heads because they do not like black women. I'm willing to die on that hill. Killmonger said a bunch of wonderful things in the movie about what he was trying to do for black people, but it was obvious that what he was trying to do was create the exact same society that we live in now, a society that even white people hate. And it would not have worked. It would not have been good. It would not have been liberating. It would have just been a caste system, which we are living in now, but it would have been flipped. And that flipping would have still had men at the top of that system. So either way, That it's a cold take at this point, but that's my little thing. If anybody that does not see Killmonger as the villain that he is somebody who is very male centric or misogynistic.